Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Freewheelin Vans Channel. Today we're going to replace the cover of my roof vent with a replica fiberglass Venturi vent cover made by Charlie's Van Salvage. So stay tuned. This thing on? So I recently purchased this Venturi vent cover. It's a replica. It's not a real one. It doesn't open from the front. It's a hard piece here. Made out of fiberglass by Charlie of Charlie's Van Salvage. These are much more sturdy. They're paintable. They're not gonna get sun damaged as long as you basically take care of it and paint it correctly. The plan is I really want to keep the roof vent that I already have because it has a fan and a light in it. Unfortunately, it only fits a 12-inch cover where this is made for a 14-inch. So what you have to do is, if you're going to purchase one of these, you're going to want to get the Hangs. Let me back you up here. You want to get the Hangs Universal Roof Vent. This one I think I paid $70 for. This is the one that he made the replica to fit. I did a bunch of measurements, and the piece that I have on the top is the same width from here to here, 16 inches total. It's the same width. It's this internal piece right here, this lip, this rubber lip. That's 12 inches in the current one I have, but it's meant to fit a 14-inch. So the plan is to take the one off and replace it with this one. There is a fan riveted to this bar right here, but if you see, you can see these two holes. I'm going to see if I could transfer the fan to this one if the holes will match up. And then I'll use the existing screen that I have already, remove this screen piece, remove this handle, and use the existing old school handle that I have right here. I did test this handle. It does fit on this screw piece, so it does work. I'm just hoping that everything else lines up. Yeah, and then what will happen is this piece right here will be taking out the rivets to basically take this piece and add it to the replica Venturi vent. My plan is to, you can paint these whatever color you want. You can do whatever you want with them. My intent for this one is I'm just gonna paint it black to make it look like the original. I'm thinking about putting a coat of silver here first, and then pinstriping a silver pinstripe, like basically just pinstriping over the silver paint, and then painting the whole thing black, and then remove that tape. I have a Venturi vent sticker that I'm going to put on the front of this, a decal that I got from Charlie at Never Easy Boogie Vans, and then do the whole thing clear coat before I install it. So again, the reason why I want to hold on to this existing one is because it has a fan. You can't really hear that, but it has a fan and it has lights in it. And I want to keep those existing lights and fan. The new one does not come with a fan or lights. You could probably buy one, but it's going to cost you about $250, $300 when I already have one that I think is going to work already. Worst case scenario, doesn't work, I'll just replace the whole thing with the existing no fan, no lights. All right, let's get at it. Okay, first thing you want to do is you got to take these two front screws out of the existing cover, and then once you have those loose, you're going to want to pop the back off of this little tab here, and this, you should be able to slide this piece off of the base plate here. So we'll get started with that first. And then once we're done there, what I need to do is rivet out or drill out these rivets. And then I'll take this round piece here and transfer it over to the Venturi vent. Don't lose your hardware. These are very small screws. You don't want to lose your hardware. If you don't have one of these, get yourself a little magnetic bowl. Get these at Harbor Freight fairly cheap. Put them in there. You see it in there, it's not going anywhere. See that tab right there? You want to go ahead and pull the thing forward so you get that off the tab. And you should be able to slide this off. There's a little tang. You gotta pull the little tang right here. Usually it's indented like this one here. You got to take a screwdriver and just kind of pry it out a little bit, and this should be able to slide right off. Just like that. So like I said before, now I'm going to drill out these rivets so I can pull this piece off and transfer it to the front of the Venturi vent. Now the best way to do this is you want to make sure that you drill out your rivets through the center of the rivet, because the last thing you want to do, these holes are pretty small. The last thing you want to do is wallow out your hole of the bracket. So there's a couple ways you can do this. You could try to go through the inside. You've already got an indentation in your rivet. You could try to go through the inside with your drill bit, but you risk damaging this piece here in case you want to reuse this later if your drill chuck happens to hit this or your drill hits this. So that's an option. The other option is to use a hammer and punch like this. You get a sharp end. Actually, this one's pretty dull, but I'm not going to use this one. I got to sharpen it. You can use a punch like this and a hammer. And you'll go ahead and center this on the rivet head and then hit it. Or you can get yourself one of these spring-loaded punches. And that's what this is here. So this should automatically, you just get it to center. I just put it on a hard surface. Go. Yeah, definitely you want to use a hard surface on the back end. It looks like these are really light aluminum rivet heads. I'm barely pushing on them, and I'm already putting a dent in there. Already putting a little notch in there. So you can see kind of like that one right there. You want to find your smallest drill bit possible, or one that's just big enough to fit in this area here. That way, that kind of gives you the general idea of what your hole size is going to be like. Again, get a hard surface. Start slow. Make sure you're on drill. Yeah, these are aluminum. They're already starting to drill super easy. So you want to drill. And there it is, starting to spin. I'll show you how to take care of that here shortly. Okay, you can see the holes I drilled there. I had a small punch. Can't find it. Okay, I have to use a file. For some reason I can't find my small punch, but I'm using the end of a file. What I did is I just pried off. I stuck this down in the hole and just pried off the head, and so now it'll come right out. You want to be careful because you don't want to wallow out your hole if at all possible. You just got to take your time and go around. There we go. Another one. last one. And you could always try to drill the hole out bigger if this isn't going to fit in there. There we go. Now you can just pretty much knock these remaining pieces out with a punch. I'm gonna move over here and use my vise because I need something to support the rest of the metal, because this is thin aluminum and it bends pretty easy. All right, there you go. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna hammer this metal to get it flat again. And then we could do our measurements on the Venturi and drill it in. There we go. All right, well, I had to pause and run out to grab some rivets. And when I came back, I thought I hit the record button, and obviously I didn't. So it looks like I jumped ahead here, but I went ahead and I did a dry fit of the vent cover on the base plate here. In doing so, I centered up the channel piece with the center of the Venturi vent. And then I used a couple clamps to hold it in place. And then I went ahead and made my marks and drilled my holes for at least the two center bolts, and then the tang on the bar that opens up the top here. So on the other cover that this channel came on, there was a gap of probably about 1/4 inch between the round stock here and the top or the bottom of the lid. With this one, it's like about 1/8 of an inch. So you basically have to do a dry fit and make sure that it's, you know, it fits well, it fits even. This is basically how it looks. I actually reached out to Charlie with Charlie's Van Salvage to ask him what he did with his, and he said the exact same thing. He did a dry fit. He had a small gap, kind of like this one here, and that's the best it'll fit. So now that I have this fit good, I know it works good. Give you a little test run here. Now that I have that, I'm gonna go ahead and take this back off. I'm gonna drill out the other 2 holes, and then I gotta drill out the holes for the back piece here to make sure that that is centered and ready to go. Once I did that, everything fits good. The next step is gonna be probably paint before I start to throw everything together up on the roof. The reason behind that is I don't want to take anything off of the roof and then have a giant hole in my roof over the next couple days while I'm trying to finish this up. I would rather go ahead and get this piece right here as done as possible and ready to go before I do the final removal and swap. This piece here is not aluminum, it's actually metal. You can see here, this is a magnetic lamp or magnetic flashlight. It's hanging on there pretty good. So because of that, I don't want to take the risk of this rusting. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint this black as well. And I think it'll look good all wrapped up. By the way, these screws are just to hold this on for now and to make sure that I get my other 2 holes centered when I drill them. I do plan on actually riveting this channel piece onto the lid here. I will not be using screws and nuts. And I'll make sure to put that in the video as well. So stay tuned. Up next is paint. So let's go ahead and get this off and drill out the other 2 holes, make sure everything's lined up, and then we'll get prepping for paint. When working with fiberglass, especially if you're going to be drilling or sanding, you should always wear a mask. Dust mask, respirator, something like that, to keep those dust particles from getting into your lungs. Those dust particles are glass, fine pieces of fiberglass, so you get in there and get stuck in your lungs, and you could have breathing issues later on. Okay, I'm using 5/32 pop rivets. 5/32 pop rivets. These are about 1/8, 1/16 to 1/8 long. For the gap range, and these seem to fit the best. The hole that I drilled is closest to the hole that's in the bracket piece here, and it seems to be the one that fits in there the most snug. With that gap range, it leaves with enough on the back end to be able to get a good bite, but not too long that it won't snug up. It won't fit on the base very well. So we're gonna go ahead and knock this out now. You don't have to use pop rivets. If you feel more comfortable using regular rivets or screws, you can do that. I don't have the setup to be able to do regular rivets. I'd have to buy all the equipment. Okay, there we go. All right, we're doing another dry test here. All right, I think we got a good fit. Looking on the inside, looking pretty good. All right, so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna do the 2 screws for the back piece here. So that back piece needs to get screwed into the back of the vent cover. So we're doing that next. All right, and so you're following along here. What I've done is I've marked the center of the bracket piece, if you can see that. And then I made a light mark at the center of the back of the Venturi vent. And what I'm going to do is line up those two while the bracket is on this piece of the Venturi vent, and then mark where my two holes need to be drilled and drill those out. Right now what I'm doing is I'm testing my drill bits to see which one fits in the most snug, because that's going to be the size of the hole that I'm going to drill. All right, the Venturi vent is all painted and ready to go. Today we're going to go ahead and replace it on the top here. But I have to go ahead and take everything out from the bottom, including the fan. I have to drill that fan out as well because it's riveted onto the bracket of the old base plate. So what I did is I went ahead and removed all my bedding. I put down a tarp to catch anything that's coming out of here, especially as I start to remove the base plate above and remove all of that caulking and whatever else they have up there. Okay, now we're gonna move to the top. Once again, I forgot to hit record while I was removing the base plate here, but as you can see, it is off. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to remove the fan. It is tack welded in there, so I'm gonna have to drill those tack welds out, and then take this off, figured out how this is wired in here, disconnect the wiring, and then go from there. All right, I had to forego the use of the fan and the light. It wasn't going to match up with the screen that we had with the rest of this stuff. So I'm just going to have to utilize the original or the new screen that goes with this. So right now I'm getting ready to put the butyl tape on, and then basically start to screw it down. Okay, now we got to go up and fill in the channels that that dip in. We have to put some buell tape in that so that they're level with the upper portion of the channel for when this gets sandwiched down. So let's go do that. Okay, good. Huh? Good, I can't, I'm going to use the fan and the lights, but it's not going to work. So, huh? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm just going to use the regular one. New one. Yeah. Not right now. I know, do something. I can get it for you in about 5 minutes. Does that work? Okay. All right. You sure? All right. is pretty much done. I got a couple more screws I got to put in. I need longer screws, so I'll go ahead and give you guys a look at it, see how it looks, and we'll go from there. There it is. Like I said, I got a couple screws I still got to put in, and then I'm going to do some lap sealant after that. Once, probably tomorrow, I'll do the lap sealant. It's later in the afternoon now. All right, final step here is to get all the lap sealant on. You see I taped everything off. Probably wondering what this black stuff here is. This is Pour 15. I had some rust issues, so I went ahead and used the Pour 15 on that. And then the sealant should be able to cover all that, and we should be pretty good to go. So once I'm done doing the sealant all the way around the edge, I'm gonna go ahead and take the tape off and do each screw so that there won't be any concerns with leakage through underneath the screw heads. And I'm using a technique that I used as an aircraft mechanic when we would do sealant around bolt heads and edges and things like that with what was called potting. It was a sealant. Basically, instead of using a potting gun, I'm using a brush and a cup. And what I do is I take these brushes, you could get these at Harbor Freight. I use these brushes and I cut them so that there won't be any loose pieces, and it allows you more control as you're brushing it on. Some of you are probably thinking to yourself, that doesn't look very clean. Looks pretty messy, right? But here's the thing. This roof has a lot of rust in it, especially along the drip rails. So I'm not concerned right now about how clean this looks. Down the road, if I replace this roof or I fix the drip rails, I'll probably redo this. I'll probably have it painted, make it look nice. But for now, I just want it waterproof. That's the main goal here. Just making sure that I'm not going to get any leaks coming in. So that's, you know, you got to do what you got to do for your van. But this is what I'm doing here for my van. All right, we're gonna let this dry. The pieces that go up on the bottom on the inside, they were white, so I've been spray painting those black. I think I got about one more coat to do and I should be good there. Then once this is all dry, I can slap everything back together and we'll be good to go. All right, folks, there she is. All done. I realized after the fact that I didn't get pictures of the first one that I had on there. It was not very pretty. It was just a basic smoked vent cover, and then the base was like a faded white paint. So it was time for a change for sure. Anyways, again, this is a fiberglass vent cover, not the original Venturi vent. If I wanted to buy a new used, new old stock, it would have cost $400 probably for a new one. This was about half the price. Fiberglass, it's better made, it's going to last longer. It doesn't open from the front, but it does open from the back, which I'll show on the inside in a minute. If we move inside here, like I said before, I wanted to use the fan and the lights from the original. Unfortunately, they weren't going to fit, so I had to go and use the one that I bought for the base plate. So it's just the vent itself. It does open. The wires that were for the fan and light on the original vent, I rerouted to that back light. That light I had hooked up in here, but I had never had basically working. So that now works. I'm going to probably get some red bulbs for that, at least for one of them. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, you can see that I went ahead and spray painted the trim piece and the screen trim black to better match the interior of the van. I want to say a big thank you to Charlie from Charlie's Van Salvage for making these Venturi vent covers. Again, I feel like this is a game changer for the vanning community, especially if somebody's trying to go with that old school 70s look with their van. You know, these are higher quality. They're stronger because of the fiberglass versus the originals that are plastic. The originals do have more moving parts to them, so they can break. And if you're lucky enough to find a new old stock, you're going to pay top dollar for them. They're running between $400 and $500, especially if they're still in a box. Charlie, you can find him on Instagram and Facebook. Again, Charlie's Van Salvage. He also sells the full fender set for your van if you're looking for the fender flares, stuff like that. If you like this video, I ask that you hit that like and subscribe button. If you have any ideas of other videos that you'd like to see, I ask that you comment down below. And until next time, keep on vanning.